Unit 10, Day 3. I asked you guys to fold a 3 by 2 in class. So if you'll look up here, if you would copy down in those top 3 boxes, these 3 multiplication problems, and then go ahead and simplify those problems through multiplication. And then if you guys would go down to the bottom 3 and copy down these 3 expressions and factor those expressions using GCF, just like we did in our Day 2. Okay. And then before we flip over the back, I just want you guys to consider some logic for a moment. Okay? All right, so let's say I have this. You do not have to write this down, by the way. Just listen. Let's say I have 3x plus 2x. Well, if I've got 3 of these and 2 of those, then I should be able to add those 2 numbers together and get 5 of those. Okay? Well, what if I trick it up just a little bit? What if I say that I have 3 of those plus 2 of those, and I want to add those together? Well, they're both the same type of thing, so under the same logic, I should be able to add those guys together and get 5 of those. Okay, well, let me trick it up just a little bit more. Let's say that I have x of those plus 2 of those. Well, they're still the same thing. They're still both x plus 1s. So just like the 3 and the 2, I should be able to add the x and the 2 together and get x plus 2 of those. Okay? Now we're going to use this logic in a moment. I want you guys to go to on the back side of your paper, and on the top 3 boxes, if y'all would copy down those 3 expressions. And then I'm gonna actually write down a lot of things here, but I only want you guys to copy down what I copied down in the left column. Okay? Let's just consider a few things. Let's say that I want to factor this x squared plus 8x plus 12. Okay? Well, think about what we did in Day 2. Don't copy this down. Just think about it. If I have 8x, x squared, and 12, and I want to factor this by GCF, well, as we begin to do our factorizations here, you're going to see that these guys don't share anything other than 1. So there's nothing that we can factor out with the GCF. So that won't help us. Well, I can actually tell you what the factors are. Don't write this down either. Just think about it. The way that we factor this would be x plus 2 times x plus 6, and I'll prove it to you. If I do distributive method and multiply these 2 things together, I end up with x squared plus 6x plus 2x plus 12. Then we talked about on Day 1 that these guys are like terms, so we can combine those 2 guys together. And we end up with x squared plus 8x plus 12. Well, lo and behold, there is the expression that we want. The question is, how do we get to go back the other way? How do we get from here up to the top? And that's what I want to show you today. And the way we're going to do it is factoring by grouping. Okay? Well, let me also introduce something else. You can write this down for me. The standard form here of an algebraic expression is ax squared plus bx plus c, where the a, the b, and the c are just numbers. As you look up at the expression we're given, here the a is 1, the b is 8, and the c is 12. If you want to figure out how to eventually get back to the factors of an expression like this, then we need to split up this middle term. If you look over here at the middle column, you see how that 8x here was combined by 6 and 2? I want to figure out how to split that 8x up into the 2 middle terms. And that'll eventually get me towards where I want to go. To figure out how to split that middle term up, here's what we do. We're going to say that we want 2 numbers that multiply to give us a times c. And we want those same 2 numbers to add together to give us b. Okay, well, as you look back up at our expression, the a and the c here are 1 and 12. So that product of a times c is just 12. The number in the middle of that expression, the 8, is our b. So what we want are 2 numbers that multiply to give us 12 and add to give us 8. Okay, so as we start to think about the different combinations here, one of them is going to work. We could think of 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. The only one of those products where we could add together the two numbers and get 8 would be 2 and 6. Those are the two numbers that we want. Also notice that those are the two numbers over here that were added together to get the 8. So the first part of factoring by grouping is splitting that middle term up into two separate terms. And here's what it looks like. X squared plus 8x plus 12. The 8x gets split into 6 and 2. Okay? Then the next part is how do we get from that the middle step, this step right here, up to the top one? Okay, well, that's where we factor by grouping. Of the 4 terms here, you think of one group as the first 2 terms, and you think of the last 2 terms as the second group. And what we want to do is we want to take the GCF out of each one of those 2 groups. When we do, we can use our logic step to eventually get to our answer. Okay, so x squared and 6x. X squared is x times x. 6x is 2 times 3 times x. Okay, well, what they share is an x. That's what I'm going to factor out of this expression. So I'm going to get x times something. Okay, well, let's figure out what that should be. If x is on the outside of the parentheses, x squared divided by x, 6x divided by x. You'll notice that x squared divided by x, the first is just x. 6x divided by x is just 6. And that's what it looks like when the GCF is taken out. Now let's do the second group. Let's do the 2x and 12. So 2x is, well, that's just 2x. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. And what they share is a 2. So let's take that 2 out. It's a positive 2, so we'll write a little plus. All right. Let's see what that's going to look like. 2x divided by 2 and 12 divided by 2. All right, well, 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so that's an x. 12 divided by 2 is a 6. And that's what it looks like after we've taken the GCF out of the second group. Now, what I want you guys to notice is what's inside the parentheses is the same. This and this are the same. Okay? So we could say that of those, here we have x of those, here we have 2 of those. So if you think back to our logic thing earlier, when I said we had x of these and 2 of those, so therefore we have x plus 2 of those. Well, if I have x of those and 2 of those, I should be able to put those two guys together and say that I have x plus 2 of those x plus 6s. Well, if you'll notice, those are the 2 binomials that I gave you guys at the top up here. Okay, so that is our answer. I know it seems like a lot, but after we go through a couple of examples, I think you guys are going to realize, hey, this isn't that much going on. Okay? All right, so I'm going to erase the middle. And let's start with that second expression. That second expression says x squared minus 7x minus 18. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to figure out, in order to get to its binomial factors, is what are we going to split that 7x, negative 7x, up into? Okay, so we can write this down with me. Think about what we're going to split that middle term up into. Okay? All right. Well, remember our template over here. We need 2 numbers that we're going to multiply to give us a times c. Well, a is 1, c is negative 18. So the product of those 2 things are negative 18. Those same 2 numbers need to add together to give us negative 7. Okay, well, let's use our logic here. If you have 2 numbers that multiply together to give you negative 18 or a negative, that means that one of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. If those same 2 numbers add to give you a negative, that means that the bigger of the numbers have to be negative. So let's see. Let's go through our possibilities. It could be 1 times negative 18. It could be 2 times negative 9. It could be 3 times negative 6. The only one of these combinations that will add together to give us negative 7 are 2 and negative 9. So that's what we want. Those are going to represent the 2 terms that negative 7 is going to split up into. Notice that that does not change the value of the expression. It just means we have 4 terms now instead of 3. Now we can think of those 4 terms each as their own groups. Here's the first group. Here's the second group. And we'll take the GCF out of each group. Okay, so x squared and 2x. What they share is an x. So let's take that out. So if you have, let's see, x squared divided by x and 2x divided by x. X squared divided by x is x. 2x divided by x is 2. Okay, let's look at the second group. Negative 9x and negative 18. So I get a negative 1 on both of those to start off with. 9 is 3 times 3 with an x. 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. Let's see what they share. They share a negative 1. They share 2 3's. Therefore, I'm going to take out a negative 9. All right, so minus 9 times something. All right, let's see. Negative 9x divided by negative 9 and negative 18 divided by negative 9. Well, negative 9x divided by 9 is a positive 1x. Negative 18 divided by negative 9 is a positive 2. Well, looky there. What's inside the parentheses are the same, and that's a good sign. That means that we have x of those x plus 2's here and minus 9 of those x plus 2's there, which means we can combine the x and the minus 9 to say at the end we have x minus 9 of those x plus 2's. That's our answer. Let's try one more example together. Okay. X squared plus 3x minus 28. We're looking to see what we're going to split that 3x up into. Okay, two terms. We need 2 numbers that we can add together to give us the product of 1 and negative 28. So that's just negative 28. Those same 2 numbers are going to add together to give us 3. Okay, so let's use our logic again. 2 numbers multiply to give you a negative. Therefore, one of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. They add together to give you a 3. That means the bigger number needs to be the positive. Okay, so negative 1 and 28, no. Negative 2 and 14, no. Negative 3 doesn't go into 28. Negative 4 and 7, there we go. They add to give you 3. Okay, so as we come back over here, those are what satisfy those 2 equations. So I'm going to end up with minus 4x plus 7x minus 28. Okay, let's see how we do. Take a look at the first group there, the x squared minus 4x. Take a look at the GCF there. They're both going to share an x. Okay, so I'm in this first group here. They're both going to share an x, and that's all. When you divide each one of these guys by x, you're going to get x minus 4. All right, 7x minus 28. Let's look at that group. What those guys are going to share is a 7. So we got a plus 7 there. When you divide each one of these guys by 7, you're going to get, let's see, x minus 4. Well, as you look inside the parentheses, that makes us feel pretty good because those guys are the same. Here we have x of those. There we have 7 of those. Therefore, we'll have x plus 7 of those x minus 4s. Okay. Remember that all these final answers that we got, we could do our distributive method or do a 2 by 2 Punnett square and verify that they are, in fact, those original equations, that they're original expressions. Okay, for the bottom 3, I want you guys to copy down these 3 expressions. As you come in the next time I see you, if you can factor these expressions, that lets me know how much or how far back I need to start. Also, how far ahead you guys are ready, and eventually determines when you guys get done for the class. Okay, if you guys have any questions, if this is not helping, if you want to hear it from me personally, come see me during tutorials. Thank you very much.